Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Future Hacker. I'm your host, Maria Taiji, and today we're talking to Erica Culpepper. Erica is the General Manager of L'Oreal Multicultural Beauty and oversees the US and Global Business Unit for a dynamic portfolio of brands which celebrates, inspires, and empowers women of color. Erica also led the acquisition and integration of Carol's Daughter, bringing the natural hair pioneer into L'Oreal family and helping to expand L'Oreal's leadership within the multicultural market. She's an avid champion of women's empowerment through building self-confidence and developing products that allow every woman to embrace and celebrate her own unique beauty. I love that. Erica serves on the L'Oreal USA Executive Committee and Advisory Board member for L'Oreal USA Women of Color think tank, a member of the Executive Leadership Council, as well as a board member for Cosmetic Executive Women and Build NYC. She has been honored for her leadership in beauty with CEW Achiever Award, Top 25 Black Women in Beauty by the Network Journal, and a Global Visionary Leadership Award from her alma mater, Howard University School of Communications. Hi, Erica. It's so great to have you with us today. How are you doing?
Good morning, Maria. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to talk to you today.
So, Erica, the beauty sector has just a great evolution story throughout the years, as it's one of the main reflections of different generations through the decades, right? Could you please start by you giving us an overview of the main trends and changes until today so we can discuss the future?
You know, Maria, there are so many trends that have happened within the beauty industry over the last hundreds of years. Beauty has been at the forefront, and the intersection of culture throughout all the years. They come and they go, and that's what really makes it fun. For me, what I wanted to focus on today is really where we're going, like where we are right now and where we're going. If I think about the hottest thing in beauty right now, is the image and perceptions of what defines what beautiful is, and all the conversations that have come up, especially over the last year, in terms of images of beauty, what defines beauty, who's considered beautiful. In the US, I can say for sure that the images and perceptions of beauty have been a more Eurocentric definition of beauty: straight hair, fair complexion, thin red lips. And if we look at how this has evolved and how the conversations have evolved, and if we think about where the demographics of not just the US, but globally, the world is moving to a browner world, if you will. And so all beauty companies have to take that into consideration and think about all the beautiful skin tones and hair textures that they need to now account for, and not just do it behind the scenes, but bring that beauty to the forefront.
That's just, beautiful to hear. We're going through some very tough times, right? And seeing this change and understanding that this is the trend, we really hope that somehow there's going to be a very deep cultural evolution and awareness on people's minds, right? Especially regarding respecting each other, right? So as most of the industry, let's talk a little about COVID, right? It has posed some very challenging moments for the sector as any other, right? But specifically about beauty, people stopped going out and avoided social contact. And then it just got the time to revisit our values, focus on essentials. Were there any big lessons learned that changed the way of the industry? Or do you believe things will pretty much, go back to the same old?
I don't think things will ever go back to the same old. I think the last year has been super challenging in a lot of ways, but it's also been inspiring in a lot of ways. And I think for me, COVID really reinforced and validated the power of beauty, if you will. Earlier, I just talked about how beauty has always been at the forefront and intersection of everything, and COVID was no different. I don't think that anybody would ever be able to question again whether beauty is essential, because if you think about it, beauty had to be there from a physical standpoint. It had to be there from an emotional standpoint to help pick people up when they were really feeling down. It provided a sense of safety. If you think about everything that was going on with the hand sanitizer and hand lotions that needed to be there to protect people. And there were some essential themes that really came out of the last year, especially around the essentialness of self-care. Because there is so much sadness and badness and doom and gloom, beauty provided an opportunity to have a little piece of heaven and to escape from everything else that was going on in the real world. You put on a pretty lipstick, or you just decide you want to fix your hair. Like, that is an escape. Or if you want to try a new skincare routine. So with salon closures, people really had an opportunity to spend more time at home and discover their ability to be beautiful on their own. I think another piece that really resonates with me and sits close to my heart is that beauty also showed up in two ways that really unified us. So one is around a sense of purpose. You know, I talked earlier about the hand sanitizers. If you look at all the beauty companies throughout the industry, really, they discovered a way to develop hand sanitizers in record time and donated those hand sanitizers to essential workers and to people within the community. And then also coming back to the point around being more inclusive, just recognizing that there's whole populations of people who had not been recognized before that also needed to be recognized. So I think that's like the meaningful and the purposeful part. But then you ask, are we going to go back to are we going to stay like this? Absolutely not. People cannot wait to get back to being wearing makeup and, going to the salon and having a fabulous outfit, a fabulous pair of shoes, and being out, looking amazing and interacting with their friends. So, I think we all can feel the world is starting to open up, some faster than other, and people can't wait to get back to being beautiful again. So that's super exciting.
Those experiences, just going to the salon and going out, is just going to be way more valued than before, right?
Exactly. Especially when you can go to the salon and not have to wear a mask, right?
Exactly.
Not have to get your temperature checked every time you walk in, or not have to feel this distance from your stylist and be able to hug him or her. So it's going to be an amazing feeling.
Our companies are already facing the challenge of making a positive impact in the world. And, I love the examples that you gave, that so many companies got together and, donated whatever they could. Even companies that were producing, beer and sodas started producing hand sanitizers, right? But, soon making a positive impact in the world is becoming obligatory and not something nowadays. I feel it's more it's good to have. But very soon, with the change of generation, is a must-have, right? And a part of that is using the sustainable resources. And there are so many advancements when it comes to biomaterials that don't produce waste. Is there anything in that line specific to the beauty fashion that you could be sharing with us? Is there maybe a lot in place when it comes to new ingredients or manufacturing or testing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I will share it from the lens that I live and breathe and work in every day. To your point, the issue of sustainability and corporate responsibility is extremely important. Consumers are demanding it now more so than ever, especially after the world that we live in right now. And companies demand it too. So companies want to be responsible and want to do their part to make sure we live in a more environmentally responsible world. So I would just say some of the things that we're doing from a L'Oreal standpoint is that we just launched a new sustainability program. It's called L'Oreal for the Future. And it really sets bold and measurable targets around where we want to be within the next 10 years around climate control, around water, around biodiversity, around natural resources, in line with what we know science is telling us we need to be. And this is perfectly in line with what consumer expectations are too. They want to make sure they're using the most sustainable products and processes that their beauty is clean and green. They want beauty that's going to help build up their immune system. So it has to be a partnership of give and take, of, companies providing what we know is best for our environment, what's safe for our consumers, what's going to help them to be healthier and more responsible. And I would say even beyond the environmental piece, which is super important, is also cause. So cause is included in that as well. And how are brands showing up with a greater sense of purpose? I know from the research that we've done on our team, nearly 60% of consumers expect brands. They expect it. And that's what you said in your opener. They expect the brands that they buy to take on, have a point of view, and to give back to their communities. And when brands do that, consumers respond. Like, they're 40% more likely to buy a brand if that brand is being socially and environmentally responsible.
And I think that when people learn that actually they are voting with their wallets, right? That's the key.
There is power in the wallet.
Exactly. We did interview in the past Richard Steele. He launched a book called The Elevated Economics. And it's all about that. It's all about how it's becoming an obligation as consumers are understanding their power. And, I think in the next generation or two, the power is going to be within the young people. And so they would be the one deciding, right? So the companies have to get prepared now, right?
Yeah, and they have less of a tolerance for behaviors that are unacceptable, whether it's a brand spokes. I mean, how many companies have we seen called out for their spokespeople or their CEO or people within the company who are not behaving in an ethical way or who have a questionable past? Like, consumers are demanding that change. And I think it's super exciting and empowering.
Exactly. That is something that makes me more optimistic. Within everything that we're living now, it's good to know that things are getting better, right? So still talking about the new generation. So do you believe there will be this, and that's just a guess, right? Because at the end, if we're talking about, 20 years from now, who knows what's going to happen, but do you believe there will be this back to basics movement in which maybe looking more natural could be a trend? Or do you believe that without this hyper connectivity available by then, and who knows what's going to be available, right? People will be more even focused on showing their own individualities and eccentricities through beauty and fashion?
I think both. I mean, even if we go back to the late 60s and the early 70s, when you have the people who were defined as the hippies, you always have this sort of intersection between the pure naturalists and the high fashionistas. And I think as beauty and fashion executives, we have to be able to deliver it all because there is no one size fits all. Our job is to inspire, to empower, to celebrate, and to provide options that meet consumers where they are on that spectrum, and to make sure they have choice and that they have options so everybody can feel beautiful and confident or handsome, if you will, in their own skin. So I think that's super exciting as well, just where this space is going. I had a whole debate with one of my sons who's a teenager, and he was talking about this trend of girls not shaving. And he had a very strong point of view against it. And I said, listen, you can have your point of view, but they also have a right, if they want to not shave, and not be judged for that. So we have to create space for everybody to be individuals and be their own unique selves, if you will.
Exactly. And, I'm glad you mentioned your son. So I wanted to cover the beauty products for men because, usually still when we talk about beauty industry, it's natural that people is going to think about women. But it seems that there's still some cultural bias to overcome. It's getting more common, right, to see beauty products for men. So how do you see this segment evolving? It seems there's still a lot to explore, right?
There is so much to explore. I think men's is one of the most fascinating categories that we have. It continues to be one of the fastest growing and also fastest evolving because here, again, that message is inclusion, right? And if you think about where we are with men, women, and the ability to accept who you are as a person. Are you gender neutral? Are you gender fluid? That these lines are going to become blurred. But for people who identify as men, they're feeling more empowered right now as consumers as well as shoppers, that they want choices, and they have more choices now than ever. Like, there was a time when men had to primarily use women's products, but now they have more choices than ever. Like, more brands are launching to address the specific needs of men. And I think longer term that we start to see a blurring of the lines so that there doesn't have to be a choice, of just products for men or just products for women, but products that are for people, and more gender fluid. So I love watching this space. I think it's going to be interesting to see how does it evolve, how high is high for men, if you will, and what is that untapped opportunity in the gender fluid space.
I love that. And you know what? I think I have a follow-up questions about that, because I think it's not just going to be besides the gender for men or for women, those categories that we currently have, right? Dry, normal, oily. So I think that we're going to have access to so much different data. And I think the technology is going to help on that. And even according to the gene or whichever conditions. So how do you see the new technologies evolving in this industry? I think that is going to be very different, that we can start basing on actually the true skin type of the person is, besides the very simple categories that we currently have. Do you think that you're going to have this super segmentation that is customized to every individual? And scaling that should be really hard as well, right? So I don't know. Just playing with the thoughts here.
No, I mean, listen, I think it's going to be super interesting because everybody is demanding something that is personalized and individualized for their own unique beauty. And I think we're going to have to look at this through data, to your point, through algorithms, through AI, and really having teams dedicated to learning how to better meet those individual needs of every single person, and how that person identifies, how do they identify themselves, and what are their specific needs. So I think it's going to be a really cool space.
So talking about beauty for elderly, so there's this movement saying that there's not only the gene editing part, but also people biohacking, and people saying that in the very future, life expectancy could go even up to 140 years. Do you see the industry already trying to adapt to this? We don't need to go to the 100 years, but to focus, to target on older people? Or do you think the focus will still going to be younger or, mature level? What do you see out there?
I think it has to be both. I mean, to your point, I don't think 100 or 140 years, but certainly if we look at the lifespan of our older consumers, like the lifespan has expanded now, and people are living much more vibrant, healthier lives, and they want to be able to age gracefully, and they want to be able to continue to live full lives and feel good and confident in the skin they're in. So absolutely, there will continue to be research and advancements in how to preserve older skin, if you will. And what does that look like? So right now, I think probably there's a cutoff of like 60 years old, women in their 60s, but that's being challenged now for women into their 70s and 80s. I have a friend who, she's like an aunt to me. She's 85 years old, okay? She still drives. She takes 5-hour road trips on her own. She's amazing. And you know what she asked me? She said, I have bags under my eyes. She's like, I'm getting bags under my eyes. My skin is getting saggy. Do you have any products that you can bring for me? And I love that. I love that, Maria, because that means she's not giving up. She's still fighting every day. She's like, yeah, I'm 85, but I look good at 85. And I need some products that can help me. And I said, I'm going to bring you some things to really help you. So I know that, our scientists and the people in the labs are really working hard to make sure that we can extend even beyond that core, quote unquote, older consumer that we reach now to address the needs of people well into their 80s, 90s, and we shall see if it goes even up into the hundreds.
You know, I usually ask my guests at the end of the interview if, you consider yourself optimistic that you're going to a more inclusive future and sustainable future, or pessimistic. I think that by our conversation, you're sounding like an optimistic to me, right?
I am an eternal optimist.
So, instead of talking about that, I know that you're involved in supporting not only women need support, but when we start talking about minorities, so Black women, when we were talking before the interview started, all the bad things that are going on, specifically in the US, but it's honestly everywhere. Now this terrible trend with the Asians. So I'd like to end the interview, but if you'd like to say anything in that line, I like to leave as an open comment. If there's any message you'd like to leave it to our listeners, it would be great.
I would leave with this quote that I love, and it says, out of the hottest fires come the strongest steel. And if I think about what we have all been through as a global community in the last year with the anti-Black, anti-Asian is very disturbing, is very concerning. But at the same time, it has brought us together in a lot of ways. I think is bringing us closer, is bringing us a better understanding as a community. And I find it super inspiring to think that as a beauty industry, we are all coming together to figure out how we can better meet the needs of all of our diverse consumers. So different skin tones, different hair textures, different body types, and making sure that everybody feels beautiful in the skin that they're in. And not just that the individuals feel beautiful, but that we start to change and challenge what is considered beautiful and what the beauty standard is. So I think there's just this whole notion of perspective, listening, learning, shifting ideals and shifting images, seeing more diverse images than ever in creative. I just think we are approaching a really beautiful and fascinating space that reflects our global community versus just reflecting one view.
I love that. Erica, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your thoughts with us. It was a great honor to talk to you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you for having me on Future Hacker.
Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.